This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/NuclearRevenge. Our first story of today is, You Let Him Rape Us, I Set You Up. First, this is a throwaway account, I will not be replying to comments. Take this as you will, this is my story of my revenge against my mother and rapist. First, our father passed away 4 years before all this started. Car crash, maybe our lives would have been better, if he hadn't died that day. Also, before I get into this, one thing you should know is, before this man came into our lives, our mother was amazing. She was loving, supportive, and put us above everything. But she would soon replace us with her new man and her new meth habit. When I was around 9 and my little sister 7, our mom started dating this man, let's call him Pos. Pos was tall and weighed about 250 pounds. He had oily, brown hair and a face filled with sores. I didn't like him from the start. He made me uncomfortable to say the least. A few months after they started dating, Pos moved into our house. Everything was okay for the first few weeks, I guess. Then my mom started to act funny. Staying up all night, not cooking us lunch or supper, not cleaning, snapping at us for no reason, and started hitting us. Our lives had been turned upside down by this man so quickly. Then one night he came into my bedroom, held me down and raped me. I was screaming and crying for my mom, begging her to come help me, to come save me please. And then I see her standing in the door watching him rape me. My mom was just letting him do this to me. She was just watching, like she was looking at a TV or something. When he finished, and climbed off of me, he walked up to my mom, kissed her, and walked away with her. My mom just left me, crying and bleeding. I was just raped and she allowed it to happen. Not long after they walked out, I hear them having sex in the living room. It was my 10th birthday. Happy birthday to me. A couple of nights later, I hear my little sister crying. I get out the bed to find my mom standing in her doorway. I run to the room to try to help her, and my mom sees me. She backhands me across the face, making me slam against the hallway wall. I can hear my sister crying and begging, with no one coming to help her. That was the day, I started hating my mother. The rape and abuse went on for 3 years. I didn't know at the beginning but soon found out, Pos had gotten my mom using meth. Pos and meth were the only important things in her life. My sister and I were nothing more than his play toys. I soon started noticing them arguing more and more. About who got more hits, this one was stashing from the other one, and you smoked the last of it all by yourself. This is when I started planning my revenge. I noticed after about 3 days they would finally pass out, and would sleep for almost 2. And their bag of meth would always be on the bedside table, beside Pos. I know most would ask, why didn't you call the police, or child welfare? Because jail wasn't enough. He might have raped us, but she betrayed us. She turned her back on us. And I wanted revenge and wanted her to suffer like we had. So every chance I got, I would move the bag, just at first. Make it look tampered with. Then I started taking it from the bag and placing some on my mom's table. These things alone cause a lot of fighting, they started getting physical. I would keep my sister and I out of sight when this went on. And they never lasted long. Well, I continued to do this over a couple of months, taking more and more, flushing it, or dropping it down the sink. Until the last day. The last day I took the whole bag. It was a good amount, they had just re-upped like they would say. I flushed the whole bag. And locked my sister and I in my room, and quietly prayed, that they didn't realize it was me. I am not sure how long after I did this, that everything started. But we had watched like 3 Disney movies before they finally woke up. And then I heard him start yelling about his missing bag. The yelling got louder and more intense, then I heard the breaking of objects. It was starting to getting bad now. I hear my mom go from angry to scared. I hear him hitting her begging him to stop. Swearing she didn't touch it. He continues to hit and she continues to beg, begging him to stop hurting her, begging someone to come help her. Begging like we begged her for so many nights. My sister started asking to leave, she was scared, and crying. I opened my window, put my sister outside and followed. We ran to the neighbors and told them that Pos was beating our mom. The neighbor called the police and brought us inside. And we watched as the police pulled up to our house. Start to walk up to the door, stop for a second and then started yelling police, and kicked the door open. After what felt like forever, we see Pos being brought out to the police car. I wait to see my mom follow, but she doesn't. I see an ambulance pull up and the paramedics run in the gurney. A short time later I see them rushing back with my mom. I catch a glimpse of her once beautiful face, now looking like ground meat. Her face was solid red, covered in blood. She ended up dying on the way to the hospital. I never planned to have my mother killed. I just wanted her to feel the pain we had been feeling for these last years. And I guess in the end she did. She felt the pain and terror we felt every night for the last 3 years. She just felt it all in one night. Do I feel bad about what I did? No, I don't. If I didn't do what I did, we would have been stuck there, being raped and beaten every day until one of us would have died. Poss was convicted of second-degree murder, possession of drug paraphernalia, I flushed the actual drugs, child pornography, pictures of us, and 23 counts of aggravated rape and 17 counts of aggravated rape against a person under 12 years of age. That last one is a death sentence where this all happened. We moved a few states over, to be with our dad's parents. We hadn't seen them in almost 4 years, and for the first time in a long time, we actually felt safe. My sister, still to this day, doesn't know what I did. Doesn't know that I played a big part in our mom's death. And since we never talk about either of them, it never comes up. We are both happily married now. I have 3 children, she has 2. Both of us are active members of our PTA. No one looking at us today would ever guess the hell we went through. Or what I did to get us out of it. Our second story of today is, I didn't go nuclear, I went supernova. Just a little background to start off. I was an exterminator for better than a decade, and was only a few credits shy of a degree in entomology. Needless to say, I know my stuff when it comes to anything one might consider creepy and/or crawly. With all this being said, I was a specialist for the absolute worst kinds of infestations. I treated for bed bugs, small cousins to ticks that only drink human blood. I bet you think you know where this is going, and just to cut you off, no, I never intentionally infested anyone. In fact, the revenge in this story isn't even for me. It was for what turned out to be one of the sweetest women I have ever met. For the purpose of the story, we are going to call her Mary. She was a nurse in World War II. I was called out to Mary's home by the management of the subsidized apartments. She had complained about a small bug issue. What I found when I got there was not a small bug issue, and still haunts me a little to this day. When Mary answered the door, she was covered in bed bugs. Her hair, her clothes, even crawling on her hands. Without going into too much grisly detail about insect biology, this isn't normal. Bed bugs don't like touching human skin, and they don't hunt when people are up and moving. That is why the bed is the most prevalent place to find them, and thus the name. I immediately called an ambulance, waited on them to arrive, and warned them about the very real possibility that anywhere they took her would be in severe danger of being infested if they didn't do something to decontaminate her. The poor woman was suffering from anemia, and it was luck of biology that she hadn't gone into toxic shock from the number of bites she had received. When she was rushed off, after having to be hosed off, literally sprayed with a hose, and having her clothes taken from her in semi-private, revenge mode started. Bed bug treatments are expensive, very expensive, and I had made a lot of contacts with local Department of Social Services, and the Adult Protective Services because of the amount of charity of work I had done. Every single one of them got a phone call. Subsidized apartments have rules, including that they have to make routine checks. For an infestation to get to that level, it had gone unchecked for years. She had been being eaten alive, for years. I called the local news, warned every neighbor, and collected statements about exactly how often the maintenance staff and management had entered the apartments. Once DSS and APS was done, I urged every single person who was put in jeopardy of infestation to file civil suits, and recommended a lawyer I had done some work for in the past. He was more than happy to take the cases as a class action suit. By the end, I had the manager of the apartments arrested for elderly abuse and neglect, and the entire staff from the top down fired. They had been falsifying paperwork saying they had been inside the apartments, performing routine maintenance, and generally scamming the government for services they didn't actually provide. I visited Mary for a while after that, checking in since it didn't seem anyone else had in a long time. She was a wonderful person, and she never deserved to have to live like that. Her health recovered for a while, but time eventually came for her. I'll never forget her, or forgive the people that allowed it to happen in the first place. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.